You know what's funny about evil? It's always in such a rush, always running, always pushing, always trying to make things happen now. But patience. Oh, patience is a different kind of monster entirely. You see, I've watched them, these so-called masterminds with their elaborate schemes and their perfectly timed plots. They think they're so clever, so untouchable. But they've never understood the true nature of power. They think power lies in action, in movement, in the grand gesture. But real power lies in the wait. Think about it. When you're patient, truly patient, you become something they can't comprehend. You're like water wearing away at stone, silent, constant, unstoppable. They expect resistance, they expect fight, they expect drama, but when you just wait, oh, that drives them mad. You see, evil plans require momentum. They need chaos, fear, reaction. Without these things, they're just empty threats echoing in an empty room. And that's what makes patience so deliciously powerful. It starves them of everything they need. Let me tell you a secret about evil plans. They're built on predictions, on expectations. They need you to play your part, to dance to their tune. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you stand still while they're expecting you to run? When you smile while they're waiting for you to scream? When you wait while they're begging for your reaction? Their whole house of cards starts to tremble. And that trembling, that's the beginning of their end. You see, patience isn't just about waiting. It's about becoming unpredictable. It's about being the variable they can't account for. Every moment you don't react the way they expect, you become the void that stares back into their soul, the emptiness that reminds them of their own meaningless existence. And here's the beautiful part. They can't adapt. They're too committed, too invested in their original plan. They've spent so long thinking about how to counter your moves that they never considered what would happen if you didn't move at all. Their own momentum becomes their weakness. Their determination becomes their vulnerability. Evil plans are like fires. They need fuel to keep burning. Reaction is their oxygen. Fear is their kindling. But patience? Patience is like watching a fire slowly suffocate. It's beautiful, really. The way they start to panic when their carefully laid traps catch nothing. The way they begin to doubt when their threats meet only silence. The way they start to unravel when their deadlines pass and still nothing. You can see it in their eyes, that growing desperation, that creeping fear that maybe, just maybe, they've lost control of the game they thought they were mastering. You want to know the real joke? They think they're the ones in control. They think their threats, their schemes, their deadlines give them power over you. But patience turns you into something beyond their control. You become like gravity, a force they can't fight, can't manipulate, can't escape. You're just there, constant, unwavering, waiting. And that waiting, it becomes a weight on their minds, a pressure they can't relieve. It's like a shadow that follows them everywhere, growing larger with each passing day, until it's all they can see, all they can think about. Their plans have timelines, deadlines, schedules. But patience? Patience has no schedule. It doesn't watch the clock. It doesn't count the days. It just is. And that's what breaks them in the end. The uncertainty, the doubt, the growing fear that maybe, just maybe, they're not as in control as they thought they were. Every day you wait becomes another crack in their confidence, another shadow of doubt in their minds. It's like watching a perfect sculpture slowly develop hairline fractures. So small at first, but growing, spreading, until the whole thing is ready to shatter. You see, evil plans are like bombs with complex triggers. They need everything to happen just right, just on time. But patience? Patience is like water, slowly rising. It doesn't trigger their traps. It doesn't spring their ambushes. It just rises, silent and steady, until their elaborate schemes are submerged, useless, drowned in the depths of their own miscalculations. And the beauty of it? They can see it happening. They can feel the water rising around them, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. And here's the punchline. The longer you wait, the more they show their hand. Every move they make to force your reaction reveals another piece of their plan. Every threat they utter exposes another weakness. Every deadline they set becomes another failure that chips away at their resolve. You're not just waiting, you're watching, learning, understanding. While they're burning through their resources, their energy, their sanity, you're gathering strength in stillness. Think of patience as a mirror, reflecting back their worst fears, their deepest insecurities. They see themselves in your stillness, and what they see terrifies them. Because in your patience, they recognize their own impotence. In your silence, they hear their own doubts echoing back at them. In your stillness, they feel their own foundations shaking. You become the embodiment of everything they fear: the uncontrollable, the unpredictable, the unstoppable force that doesn't play by their rules. What they never understand, what they can't understand, is that their evil plans are built on a fundamental misunderstanding of power. They think power comes from action, from force, from control. But true power? True power comes from the ability to wait, to watch, to let them destroy themselves with their own desperation. It's like watching a spider trap itself in its own web, each struggle only making the bonds tighter, each movement bringing it closer to its own destruction. And you? You just need to be patient enough to watch it happen. Have you ever watched a predator stalk its prey? Not the quick, dramatic chase they show you in nature documentaries. No, no, no. I'm talking about the real hunt. The one that takes hours, days, sometimes weeks. The prey thinks it's safe, thinks it's won, thinks it's outsmarted the hunter. But all along, the predator is just waiting. That's what your patience does to their evil plans. It turns you from prey into predator, but a predator of a different kind. One that hunts not with teeth and claws, but with time and silence. You see, evil plans are built on the architecture of fear. They expect you to crumble, to break, to show the cracks in your foundation. But when you embrace patience, you become something far more terrifying. You become inevitable, like the tide that doesn't care about the castles built on the beach, like the darkness that doesn't negotiate with the dying light. You become a force that operates beyond their understanding of power. But here's something they never tell you, something that will change everything you thought you knew about power. The greatest evil plans in history weren't destroyed by heroes or armies. They were destroyed by their own creators, driven mad by the silence of those who refused to play their game. You see, what they don't want you to know is that patience doesn't just frustrate their plans. It turns their own minds into weapons against themselves. Think about it. Every mastermind who's ever fallen, every evil empire that's crumbled, every grand scheme that's collapsed. They all share one fatal weakness. They built their plans expecting resistance, preparing for war, ready for chaos. But when they met nothing but silence, when their threats echoed in empty rooms, when their deadlines passed without a whisper, that's when the real destruction began. Not from outside, but from within. Here's the delicious truth they don't want you to know. Your patience isn't just a shield, it's a mirror. A mirror that forces them to face their own mortality, their own insignificance. Every second you remain unmoved is another crack in their perception of reality. They start seeing shadows where there are none, hearing whispers in the silence, jumping at their own reflections. Your patience doesn't just frustrate their plans, it makes them question everything they thought they knew about power. There's a delicious irony in watching them spiral. The more elaborate their plans, the more spectacular their failure when patience unravels them. It's like watching a master puppeteer slowly realize that their strings are attached to nothing. The panic in their eyes when they pull and pull, but nothing moves. The terror when they realize that their carefully orchestrated dance has become a solo performance in an empty theater. And here's where it gets really interesting. As their plans start to crumble, as the pressure of your patience begins to weigh on them, they'll start to realize a terrifying truth. All their power was an illusion. They'll see that their elaborate schemes, their careful manipulations, their grand designs were nothing more than sandcastles built at the edge of an infinite ocean. And your patience? It's the tide that never stops rising. This is where your true power lies. Not in the ability to fight their evil, but in the capacity to outlast it, to become the immovable object that their unstoppable force breaks against, to be the silence that drowns out their chaos, the stillness that defeats their motion, the patience that frustrates their every calculation. And here's your call, your moment of truth, your revelation. Embrace the power of patience, not as a passive act, but as the ultimate form of psychological warfare. Let it become your armor, your weapon, your crown. Because when you master patience, you master time itself. You transcend the petty games of good and evil, rising above the chaos into something far more terrifying. Certainty, the absolute, unwavering certainty that no evil plan, no matter how clever, can outlast the power of patient resolve. Their evil plans may control minutes, hours, or days, but your patience controls eternity. And in that eternal game, they've already lost. They just don't know it yet.